If you feel stuck in the day-to-day running of your agency, then this is for you, because today I'm going to teach you the 4-step process that you can use to automate your agency using AI. Because let's be real for a minute. When you started your agency, like me, you probably thought you were going to be sat on the beach, sipping pina coladas, working from your laptop, when in reality, you were more stressed than ever, working more hours than you ever did in any job. At least that was my reality when I started my agency 8 years ago. This is called Affluent.co. Still own it to this day. This is our new office we actually opened just a month ago, but not a single part of this multi-7-figure business depends on me for growth anymore. I'm completely removed from the day-to-day operations. In fact, I spend most of my time educating other people, speaking on stages, helping other companies launch, build, and scale. I spend a lot of time investing in software. I also spend as much time as I possibly can in nature. This is me a couple of days ago, early morning before I started for the day, catching a pike on my kayak. Love that. And look, I'm not about to pitch you on something, okay? I just wanted you to know that I know how you feel right now because I've been where you are. My name is Jordan Platten. I'm an agency owner myself, and I know what it feels like to be stuck in the day-to-day of your business without a clear path on escaping those daily operations. I'm going to teach you how to build a system that thrives without you, so you can free up your time to work on what you actually want to work on in your company. Now, there are 4 stages of systemization: elimination, documentation, automation, and delegation. And most people skip through to automation. I'm going to teach you how to build an accumulation of systems by following proper process, because any idiot can throw automation on top of bad process. If you want the company to continue to grow and thrive without you, we have to follow these 4 stages that we're going to go through today. Now, the first thing we need to do coming into this is we have to get a very clear picture on how we're spending our time. And the best way to do that is through a time audit. If you're a solo founder, you'll do this on your own. If you've got a team, task this across the entire company. It's very simple. We're going to track all the activities that we do, so everything that we work on, over the course of 7 to 14 days. Ideally 14 days, of course, it's going to take longer, but it's going to give you a more comprehensive picture. We're then going to categorize every single thing that we've worked on into list format with the amount of time that we've spent on these things. We're going to write it down on a piece of paper. How much time have we spent on these on a daily basis? We're then going to identify what can be eliminated, delegated, or automated. Okay, so this time audit is going to serve as the foundation to us being able to start to remove some of these tasks from our time and from our team's time. Okay, this is an actual time audit that I hosted. This is back last year. Found this sat in a drawer, and I was writing down on a daily, okay, these are the things I worked on Monday, this is what I worked on Tuesday, and then I summarized all of that at the end of the audit. So we want to take all those tasks, we want to summarize it, and we've got an accumulation. Okay, I spent 32 hours on product development, for example. And then I was putting a star next to the things that I could potentially delegate, automate, or eliminate. I'm going to come through how we can actually establish that in a moment. If you don't want to do this manually, then you can use a tool like Harvest. I'm not an affiliate of it, so go check it out for yourself. There are many other time tracking tools that you can use online. I personally prefer manually auditing myself, so we don't miss anything. Sometimes digital time trackers will miss small little details. I also think that there's more emotion, or there is just emotion full stop attached to a manual audit, and we're more likely to have ideas come up as we are writing down. We're like, oh, I really hate working on this task. Let me make a note about that. I need to get rid of this one. And so I like the manual process, but if you want to automate it, you can go ahead using a tool like Harvest. If you've got a big team, then it might be easier for you to do so. So we've established all of the things we've got going on, everything that we're working on. We established all of the tasks that we need to somehow get rid of. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is, by low-hanging fruit, look at what we can just eliminate straight away. And that is stage 1 of this process. We have to protect our time like it's our scarcest resource, because it is. At the end of the day, as the founder, we are always going to be the most motivated person inside of the company, at least in the very early stages, until we have senior directors and other board members inside of the company that have potentially got equity. And so if we are the most valuable from a time perspective, we have to protect that time and ensure we're not spending our time on little bitty things that are keeping us busy inside of the company. And for most agency founders, this is what the roadmap looks like when it comes to freeing up their time. Phase 1, you're going to do everything yourself. I mean, even up until like your 6th client, you're probably doing everything yourself inside of the agency. That means service delivery, that means sales, that means outreach, that means all of the operations. You're doing it all on your own. Phase 2 is we want to escape service delivery. Okay, service delivery is the easiest thing to hire for. Okay, as an agency, there is an abundance of service delivery team members that we can bring in, and we can bring them in for developing countries as well on low rates in the early stages when we don't have a lot of money. Phase 3 is we want to escape operations, so we can hire a virtual assistant, for example, to handle all of the admin tasks. And then phase 4 is escaping sales. Do not make the mistake of swapping phase 4 and phase 2. I've seen many an agency, and I've mentored over 4,500 agencies over the years. Many an agency will try and get rid of sales first because it's the thing they don't enjoy the most inside of the business. But what we have to understand is it's far easier to hire cheap service delivery team members than it is to hire cheap salespeople. And you're not going to be able to afford to hire expensive salespeople when you're first starting out, which means your sales will plummet because the people you hire are just simply not skilled enough to be able to help you grow. And so you as the founder are always going to be the best and most equipped salesperson in the company. And so therefore, unfortunately, if you hate sales, it is the last thing we want to delegate across the company, only at the point we can afford to hire someone of good talent. And we're going to come into hiring and delegation a little bit more as we progress. Now, we have to follow the 80-20 rule. And I'm sure you've heard of this, but if you haven't, the 80-20 rule says that 80% of our results come from 20% of our time. So just a small fraction of our time gets us the majority of our success. Now, with this activity, what we're going to do is we're going to identify at the end of this time audit what that 20% is. We're going to look at that list. We're going to take some time and be like, what that I've worked on has actually driven the business forward? And then everything else we're going to eliminate, we're going to automate, or we're going to delegate, depending on the task, with the goal to then free up our time to take that 20% to 50 to 60 to 80 to even 100 if you're lucky. But no one's really working 100% on growth generating activities all the time. And that is the goal of this entire activity. That is the goal of a time audit. And that's why I recommend doing this once a quarter inside the business across you and across your team. You are essentially calibrating yourself with what is actually driving the company forward and getting rid of everything else from your plate. So the first step to that is elimination. We're going to look at that list and we're going to be like, are there any things that we're doing right now that we could actually just get rid of entirely? They're just not growing. They're not moving us forward. We're wasting our time. Can we get rid of them? Can we be aggressive with cutting things? And we have to be aggressive with just cutting things off unemotionally in business. If you can, great. Eliminate it. I don't need to teach you about that. It's pretty straightforward. But the second stage is, okay, now we've got this list of other things that I really don't want to have to spend my time on that aren't really growth generating, that aren't really moving the needle. Well, I need to now either automate or delegate these things. Well, if we're going to automate or delegate anything, we have to document it first. We have to have a way to download our brain so we are explaining to somebody else, be it a human or a machine on NA10, exactly what they need to do. And so the way that we do that is through something called a standard operating procedure, an SOP. And this is where we document every repeatable process inside of the business, or at least everything that we're doing inside of the audit. The better thing that you could do is every process inside of the business, full stop. That's what you want to aim towards. And we're going to create clear step-by-step guides that anyone or any machine can follow. And then we're going to build a comprehensive library of internal resources, which is true intellectual property. If you want to fully automate your business, you have to have a fully comprehensive library of internal resources that you can plug into AI or other people so the business will run without you. Okay? I'm going to give you an example of an SOP. As I'm British, this is an SOP for making a cup of tea. Us Brits love tea, after all. And you can screenshot this, create the template for yourself. This is on Notion. This is where we store all of our SOPs. So at the top, we have a title where we clearly state what the procedure covers. We then have a version control and update. So when it was last updated, who it was last updated by, and then when the next review date is. We have the purpose and scope, so what it's about, okay, so why is the SOP necessary, and then exactly what it covers, okay, so what it does and doesn't cover. We have the content so people can quick reference. We have the SOP owner, so who is actually responsible for this SOP and anybody else that it concerns. Any terminology, so if we're talking about or we're creating an SOP for running ads, then we probably want to add some terminology like ROAS or any other metrics. ROAS is return on ad spend, okay? Now, you want to be able to create a document that anybody could pick up with from any experience level and be able to follow this as closely as they could and replicate the results that you get. Tools required, we have a just tick list of any tools, systems, softwares that they need to adhere to or other SOPs that this relates to. Success criteria, so how we actually define success. And then finally, we have the step-by-step process, which is the part that most people get in the SOP, but they skip everything else. So the step-by-step process is just a breakdown of it as clearly as you can. No jargon or fancy language. Be as specific as possible. Ensure that it is in the right order. And you can add Loom videos, you can add images and so on to aid that process as well. You can tag any related SOPs. You can add safety considerations as well to the SOP. So, okay, be mindful of this. If you are launching an ad, don't tick campaign budget optimization, just have ad budget, for example. Quality control, so if there are stages in the process where we want to check to ensure that everything's okay before we publish. And then finally, we have process approval, so who it's been approved by. So if you have multi-stage of management, you'd want your senior management to approve the SOPs that your team create, and then any additional resources or further learning that relate to this process. Now, we've gone a step further, and we've automated the process of SOP creation as well, which is something I'll touch on later on. But in the early stages, as a founder, you want to go ahead and create all these SOPs yourself. And you don't want to take SOPs from other agencies, because your SOPs are your unique intellectual property. It is your unique way of doing things. It's what differentiates you from everybody else in the marketplace. And ultimately, a well-populated library of SOPs will increase your agency's valuation if you want a future-proof exit in the future. And you might just be starting out at the moment, not thinking about selling, but one day you're going to want to sell the business. And if you don't have all of your processes, your intellectual property, then all you're selling is a client list, which isn't really that valuable, because someone's got to run that company and they've got to run it your way if they're going to continue to retain those clients. And so think about it like you're a McDonald's franchise. You're documenting how to flip the burger, how to make the fries the McDonald's way. This is your way of how you run an agency, your nuances is your intellectual property, and this becomes a digital brain that you can plug into AI. And as AI becomes more sophisticated, it's going to become easier and easier to create comprehensive workflows just off the bat of a SOP process that we created 6 months ago inside the business. In fact, we can already use LLMs like ChatGPT, upload an SOP, and get it to create a JSON, a JavaScript workflow for automation tools like NA10. It'll build the foundation of the workflow because it has an understanding of what you are trying to automate because you've already documented the process. So this is essential. Don't even think about automating if we haven't documented inside the business. This is going to save you and your team countless hours, and time is money. Okay? So that's documentation. Now we have stage 4 automation. You see all the stuff we have to do before we even think about automating. If we want these automations to last long term inside of the business, how can we then take these processes and how can we automate them? 3 steps. Number 1, we create the SOP. You can do this on Notion or Docs. Number 2, we are going to design a workflow, a flow chart, sorry. We can do this on Miro or we can do this on Figma. I like to use Miro. It's your choice which you use. You can create a free account on either. And then number 3, we are going to go ahead and build the automation on either Make or NA10. NA10 is our automation tool of choice. You can go ahead and you can do this yourself if you're relatively tech savvy or if you've got the time to learn. I recommend going ahead and hiring an AI automation specialist. I actually got a video I posted on my channel on how you can hire one. I'll put a link in the description. You can go and watch it after this. You can pick up some great talent for pretty cheap part-time or full-time, and they can go ahead and build this for you. So this is an example of the flowcharts built out on Miro, and this is actually what I call my automation hub. I hosted a company-wide audit, and we identified a number of different automations that we could create across 4 different departments: admin, client success, marketing, and sales. I then spent a weekend creating all of these individual workflows. Each of these are individual automations. Imagine these as a map. Okay, this is the pre-planning stage where then I would go ahead and then create that automation in NA10 or give it to our automation specialist to go ahead and build for us, okay? Now, we also looked at all of our existing processes inside the business. So if you already have existing SOPs and existing workflows, map them all out, and then you'll be able to identify specific areas that you could automate. So in green, we were highlighting things we could automate. Blue was still manual actions, but revisit all of the existing workflows that you have inside of the company. And then ultimately, you're then going to go ahead and you're going to create an actual automation in a tool like N8N. And so this is actually a sales call review automation where transcripts from our closing team get automatically sent over to this automation. It then gives them feedback based on our sales manager's previous feedback. And then we have a strike system based on whether or not the closing team are implementing that feedback. And so it's a comprehensive system. We would have not been able to create this if we didn't go through the previous steps where we hosted the time audit, recognized that the sales manager was spending loads of time on call reviews, mapped it all out on N8N, on Miro first to just play around with it, and then gave it to our developer who built out this comprehensive automation, which now saves us countless hours every single week. Now, I'm going to highlight 2 key automations that all agencies need right now, and these are possible that you can create today. Every single agency should have these automations set up to some degree. It's going to depend on what kind of business you are running and who you're serving and what you're selling to them. Automation number 1 is client acquisition. And so all agencies should have an outbound client acquisition system running, whether that's email or whether that's via DMs on various different platforms. We can now use AI to build lists of thousands of potential clients. We can use Clay.com plugged in with their Clayagent feature to hyper-personalize all of that outreach. And then we can use a tool like SmartLead or Instantly.ai to send all of those emails. There are various different social media DM automation tools. In fact, I'll put a link in the description as well to a big client acquisition video I created where I talk about all sorts of AI automation tools you can use for client acquisition. And then we can use Appointwise, which is an AI appointment setting tool that I'm the co-founder of, to handle all of the responses and appointment settings. So we can send out all of these DMs, and then when someone responds, the AI will go back and forth, it will qualify, it will book them straight into the calendar. You'll need at least one full-time person to be able to fulfill this previously. By the way, if you want me to dive deep into things like this, like a full video on client acquisition automation, and if enough of you comment down below letting me know about any parts of this video that you want me to talk about in more detail, then I will create a video in the future. I'm always checking in the comments as a pulse check for the content that you guys want to see. Automation number 2 is service delivery. So we have a custom GPT for every single client in our agency. We use them to generate strategy. We use them to generate ad copy. We use them to come up with creative scripts and angles and variations. We use video tools like VO3 to generate videos on behalf of our client. So we can save countless hours in creating all of this stuff that used to require a marketing expert, but now we just need the data from previously winning campaigns to be able to automate those initial stages or significantly save time with a little bit of human intervention at the end. Hands-off lead qualification. When we generate leads for our clients, we can then qualify those leads using tools like Appointwise, which will also do. Now, this is only a strategy if you're a lead generation agency. Though, of course, there are many different nuances, many different agencies, and therefore different tools that we could use. If you're an e-com agency, you could use Triple Whales Mobi, which you can plug into an ad account. It will then go ahead and create all new creatives for you based on previous winners and go ahead and launch those campaigns for you. Amazing. And so, depending on the agency you're running, we'll need to tweak this. And again, let me know down below what agency you're running, and I'll see what ideas I've got for you. What this ultimately means is we can now significantly reduce our headcount versus what an old school agency used to be. An old school agency is really, I'm just talking like 12 months ago now, because to get service delivery and client acquisition sorted, we'd need one appointment setter at least, costing us $1,500 to $3,000 per month. A media buyer running our ads or doing service, $1,500 to $3,000. An admin or VA doing our operations, at least $3,600 per month that we'd have to spend to get this running. But now with AI-enabled agencies, we can have client acquisition and service delivery, both of these automations running for between $100 and $400 a month. It's still not going to be free, okay? It's never going to be free when it's saving you this much time and it's making you money. But we only really need at this level of scale, and we're talking about probably about a 10 to 15k a month agency here. We just need someone in operations who can just connect the dots and make sure everything is running. And so we can reduce our costs to as little as $800 a month by having this running. Okay, probably around $1,000 a month. So we can have a significantly more profitable agency with minimal stress because we're not having to deal with having multiple team members in the company. Now, we've, of course, gone a couple of steps further in our agency now. You saw that automation hub. These are some of the things we ended up automating, and there are many more things that aren't on here, but client onboarding, 3 to 5 hours a week. Client or content creation for clients and for ourselves, 20 to 40 hours a month. Review and referral collection, so collecting more reviews and referrals. With automated SOP creation, we created a custom GPT that we upload, sometimes a call transcript or sometimes a voice note, and it goes and creates an SOP in the perfect format for us. Client reporting, automated sales call reviews, automated. Even our account manager calls are now being reviewed as well through automation. So there are many different things, and as we continue going through this process of time auditing every quarter, we're just building this library of automations in the business and hence reducing our need to hire new people in the business and freeing up the team members' time, 80-20, to spend on the things that are actually driving them forward in every department. So that is automation. That's the way we're looking at this. Again, I can go much deeper into any of these subtopics. Let me know in the comments and we can. Stage 4 is delegation. If we've established, okay, this just simply cannot be automated. A human has to do this for now, okay, because a human will probably not have to do it in the future. Then we have to delegate. This is the act of giving it to another human to do that isn't us. You cannot and should not do everything yourself. So we have to learn to leverage our team's time and skills. The caveat to this is unless you just want a lifestyle business. If you want to earn 10K a month, you can have a part-time VA doing most of the stuff for you with automation. Hey, presto, go and do that. But if you want to run a business that's making more than 10K a month, even 100K a month plus, we have to hire people. We are not in a place where AI can replace everything yet. Probably going to get there at some point. But at the time of recording this video, humans are needed for many tasks inside of the business beyond a certain level of scale. Now, when we do bring people into the business, we're going to hire slow and we're going to fire fast. That means we're going to think very, very, very carefully about the people we bring in. And if they come in, even if we're emotionally attached to them, even if we think or thought they were going to be incredible, if they weren't, we have to get rid of them very quickly and replace them. I don't think I've ever met a founder that hasn't learnt this lesson the hard way. I was told this saying, hire slow, fire fast, countless times before I made the mistake myself. It wasn't until I made the mistake that I really took the lesson. So please listen to this. We need to be unemotional with the way we remove people who are not suitable inside of the company. You will keep someone for far too long and then stump your growth inside of the company. We want A players only. Who is an A player? An A player is somebody that takes initiative. An A player who is someone who takes extreme ownership over their position. An A player is someone who drives the company forward, who doesn't need babysitting, who wants to continually learn, who wants to add more value. That is the kind of person you want to nurture inside of the company. You can build A players, okay, but you'll see the spark within them. And not everybody in the early stages of your company is going to be one because you won't be able to afford them. But when you are more established, we have to be getting those people that are independently driving the company forward on their own. But more time does not equal more output. More quality of time equals more output. We don't just want someone sat behind a computer screen filling hours. We want someone that's proactive with everything that they're doing. And to be honest, the expected is that you are spending 8 hours a day. You hire John, your new team member, they're spending 8 hours a day. You're thinking, okay, well, maybe John's not going to be as efficient as me. I'm going to get 12 to 14 hours a day. The truth is, what's actually going to happen is you're probably going to get like a couple of extra hours a day out of your total bandwidth of time. If you imagine when you hire new people, all you're doing is stacking more time, this resource that you have, you're actually going to have a lot less than you consider from hiring someone. Why? You're going to be babysitting them, okay? You're going to be creating SOPs and processes with them. They're not going to be as efficient as they need to be, okay, if you're not hiring the right people. And so how can we solve this? How can we make this easier? We need the SOP, okay? We have to have the documentation there before we hire the person, and we have to have A players inside of the business. If we do have those two things, a good SOP and a good A player, then maybe we'll get 14 to 16 hours, okay? 16 hours is us doubling. Okay, we're actually got someone who's as efficient as we are. Realistically, it's probably just going to be 14 hours as far as macro time availability is concerned, because they're never truly going to be as driven in the company as we are until they are properly incentivized based on revenue. Just as a side note, and I can talk about hiring a lot. So again, you want me to talk about hiring, let me know, and we can go deep into hiring and deep into leadership. I've made a lot of mistakes, a lot of lessons. You want people in the business to be incentivized based on revenue or based on growth. So everyone in the company ideally wants to have a base salary and then some kind of a commission-based structure based on growth. That is something I wish I did from day one. It's something we now have across all of the companies. When people are incentivized based on growth, they will do the necessary things and they won't waste their time on things that aren't driving the needle forward. Now, quality time is our highest leverage resource from 10 to 100K plus. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, I want to scale a successful agency, quality time is what we're optimizing for in team, because we simply cannot do it all ourselves. We have to get great people in who are willing to put in great work. And so if we do all of these things, what is the payoff? You can work on the business instead of being stuck in it, and you can buy your time back as the agency owner, so you can invest the majority of that time into driving the company forward, or you can just enjoy the lifestyle business you've created. Subscribe for more. Cheers.